Handling action events in a GUI. My name's Caila Blanton. Action events. An event is an action that takes place within a program. An example would be clicking a button. When an event occurs, the component responsible for the event creates an event object in memory. The event object contains information about the event. The component that generated the event object is known as the event source. It may be connected to one or more event listeners. Event listeners are objects that respond to events. The source of the component fires an event, which is then passed to a method in the event listener. Inherent classes are specific to each application. They are commonly written as private inner classes in an application. Event listeners must implement an interface, like a class containing one or more method headers. If you write a class that implements an interface, the class will have all of the methods that are specified in the interface. JButton components generate action events. They require an action listener class. Action listener classes must meet the following requirements: implement the action listener interface, have a method named actionPerformed. The actionPerformed method takes an argument of the action event type. In the example below, we have created the method header for actionPerformed. As you can see, it takes an argument action event named E. Registering an event listener is the process of connecting an event listener object to a component. JButton components have a method named addActionListener. In the example below, we have a button named CalcButton. We called the addActionListener method, and within it we have passed a new CalcButton listener. When the user clicks on the source button, the action listener's actionPerformed method will be executed. The action event object. Event objects contain certain information about the event. GetSource returns a reference to the object that generated the event. GetActionCommand returns the action command for this event as a string. So here I have written the class ButtonTest, which extends JFrame. We've imported javix.swing and java.awt.event at the top. We've already created a panel, a message label, a text field, and 2 buttons. The purpose of this interface is to calculate the monthly state tax and the monthly county tax for a user inputted amount of sales for the month. We already have the window width and height and the close operation, and we've built the panel and added the panel and set the visibility to true. So since we needed to add button listeners to each of our buttons so that it will actually do something if someone clicks it, we will need to create a class called CalcButtonListener, because that is what we passed to addActionListener. So now we're going to embed this class within our button test. So we'll say private, because it's embedded class, CalcButtonListener implements action listener, and then public void action performed will be our method, and we'll pass to an action event E. So we need to have our string for the input and doubles for county tax, state tax, and total tax, and we're going to declare doubles for CT, which is equal to 0.02, which is the percentage, and ST, which has a percentage of 0.4. Now we'll say that our input is equal to sales text field get text, because that is where the user will be entering their text. And we will now Depending on which button is the source of our action, we will calculate a different tax. So if e.getSource equals calc button C, which is our county tax button, then ctax equals double.parse double input times ct, and then we will call JOptionPane dot show message dialog null comma county tax is $space plus ctax, and then we'll have an else if statement for if our source is equal to e.getSource equals calc button S for state tax. In this instance, S tax will be equal to double.parse double input times our state tax, and then we'll call JOptionPane again dot show message dialog null comma state tax is dollars plus S tax. Let's compile it, and now we'll run it. So here's our window, and if we enter the total sales of $500, and we can calculate the state tax, which would be $20, and we can also calculate the county tax, which is only $10. That would be how you add event listeners. Here we've created a new class called aCommandTest. It extends JFrame, and up at the top we've imported javax.swing and java.awt.event.asterisk. We've already declared a panel, a message label, and 2 buttons, as well as initialized the window size, and we've set a title called library. It's because this class will be a small GUI for a library where you can pick either the adults section or the children's section. Now it doesn't actually do anything because the purpose of this demo is to explain how to add action listeners using getAction command. We've already built our panel, which adds the action listeners as well as has a message label. And so now we're going to embed a button listener class. So private class button listener implements, which is key here, implements action listener. This will allow us to listen for button actions within the GUI. So public void action performed, action event E will be passed to it, and this will be our method within the class. And then within that, we're going to use JOptionPane .show message dialog, which will allow users to confirm which button they've clicked on. So we're going to tell them, based on what they've clicked on, that you are a or an plus e.getAction command plus period, so it looks nice. And then we'll close off the class. So now we're going to compile the class. And as we've already created our main method, we may now run the program. So here's our window, and it says welcome to the library, and we can choose whether we're an adult or a child. So I'm going to pick an adult, and it tells me that I'm an adult. And see, if this weren't okay, this is an input validation. So if I were a child and I didn't want to go to the adult section, I would click OK and then switch sections. So now I can click child.